Nobody's going to teach you this in school. Your bank definitely won't bring it up, and the people who already know it, the ones quietly building wealth in the background, aren't exactly running seminars about it. But here's the thing. Turning $10,000 into $500,000 isn't a secret. It's not a scheme. It's not crypto. It's not a side hustle that requires you to become a different person. It's math. Boring, ruthless, almost insultingly simple math. And the reason most people never experience it isn't because they lack the money. It's because they lack the patience to let it work. Let's talk about what actually happens when you invest $10,000 and do almost nothing with it. You put $10,000 into a broad market index fund, something that tracks the S&P 500, which has returned an average of roughly 10% annually over the last century. Not every year. Some years it drops 30%, some years it gains 40%, but averaged out, over long stretches of time, 10% is what history shows. Year 1, your $10,000 becomes $11,000. Unimpressive. You made $1,000. You could have done that picking up extra shifts. But here's where people make the mistake of walking away. By year 10, without adding a single additional dollar, that $10,000 has grown to roughly $25,000. You've more than doubled your money without doing anything. Still not $500,000. Still not that exciting. Stay with it. By year 20, you're sitting at around $67,000. 6 times your original investment. You still haven't touched it. You haven't rebalanced, day traded, or watched the market every morning. Year 30, $174,000. Year 40, $452,000. There it is, just under $500,000, from $10,000, in 40 years, by doing almost nothing. Now here's the uncomfortable part, the part nobody talks about in the headline. 40 years is a long time, an uncomfortably long time. And the reason this strategy works is the same reason most people abandon it. The gains are invisible for decades. In the first 10 years, you doubled your money. In the last 10 years, between year 30 and year 40, you gained nearly $300,000. The same math, completely different results. B. Because compound interest doesn't work linearly. It works exponentially. The longer you stay, the faster it moves. But only if you're still there when it accelerates. Most people aren't. They check their portfolio during a market crash and see their $67,000 become $48,000, and they panic. They sell. They lock in the loss. They call it investing and move on with a story about how the market is rigged, and in a way, that reaction is completely rational. Watching money disappear feels much worse than it feels good to watch it grow. Psychologists call this loss aversion. The market, and compound interest, essentially requires you to feel that pain repeatedly without reacting to it. That's the skill. Not stock picking. Not timing. Just not reacting. There's also the inflation conversation nobody wants to have. 10% average annual returns sound great until you subtract 3% for inflation. Now you're working with roughly 7% in real purchasing power terms. Your $500,000 in 40 years won't feel like today's $500,000. It'll feel like somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 in today's money. Still, a life-changing Still extraordinary for doing almost nothing, but not exactly what the headline promised. And then, there are taxes. If this money sits in a taxable account, capital gains will take a bite when you eventually sell. This is why the vehicle matters. Roth IRAs, 401ks, and tax-advantaged accounts change the math significantly. The strategy is the same. The wrapper around it isn't trivial. So what does the lazy method actually require? It requires starting early. It requires consistency, or at the very minimum, staying out of your own way. It requires choosing boring, diversified, low-cost index funds over anything that sounds more exciting. And it requires the psychological stamina to watch markets drop by 30% and not interpret that as a signal to do something. None of this is complicated. All of it is hard. And maybe that's the real insight underneath the math. The strategy for building wealth this way has been documented, verified, and widely available for decades. Everyone has access to it. The information isn't the barrier. So the question worth sitting with isn't how to turn 10,000 into 500,000. It's why, given that the path is this clear, everyone people actually stay on it long enough to find out what's waiting at the other end.